Hey there. Welcome to another Tesla Motors Club podcast. My name is Lewis.
I'm Doug.
And I'm Mike.
Today's episode, we're going to cover all of the new details that came out around the Model Y, which was leaked through Australian Tesla. We'll also look at our scorecards for our predictions that we made last year. And of course, we'll do some new predictions for 2025. The new year, new podcasts starting off again. Episode 71 starts now. And we're back. Hey, gentlemen.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's been a crazy couple weeks.
Indeed.
2025. Oh, man. Alrighty. So anything new? Anything fun to share before we jump into the topics?
Yeah, fun to share. Yeah.
Well,
And Doug's going to be down my way later this week, right?
Yeah.
Really? We're going to see each other a couple days.
Yeah, I'm gonna make my way out for the Astro Awards. That's done by
Everyday Astronaut.
Tim Dodd, Everyday Astronaut,
Yeah.
and so I plan to do that. Let's hope I actually make it. I wanted to do kind of a production note, just a little behind the scenes a little bit. We do the show when we can. Sorry that it hasn't been as frequent lately. A lot of us have been busy. Some of us have been dealing with natural disasters.
Just a bit.
And the other thing is that so there are two versions of this podcast. There's the YouTube version, which we record live. You just sort of see what it is here, and then you can come back and watch it recorded live. And then we also do an audio version. And so it used to be the audio version was just the YouTube audio, basically. But I try to do a better job of it now, where, kind of get rid of pauses and, time someone spends looking something up, basically respecting the time of the audio listener. Also, since they don't have the visuals, they can't necessarily tell what's going on. And the thing is, though, I've been doing that myself, and it takes a lot of time. I mean, literally, I spend like at least 3 hours on that. And part of it is I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and but so I want to apologize. Basically, the last few just haven't really come out yet because I've been traveling and other things going on. So what I will try to do is this particular episode I'll try to get out as soon as possible. In the audio version, and then I will work on sort of backfilling the previous episodes. So audio listeners, if you're like missing something, obviously you can just go get it from YouTube and watch that. But if you're waiting for a more polished version, I mean, it'll come. But I'll probably do it in reverse order. Like I'll do the most recent one next and just sort of walk back. I think I'm missing like 3. We actually didn't do nearly as many episodes in 2024 as we did the previous year. So anyway, just a little background on that, and what I'm working on it, but it's it takes some time. So anyway, but yeah. So what's new?
What's new? I mean, we got the new Model Y. We got some details.
So let's talk about that.
Camera down.
Let's talk about the new Model Y there. Let's see, where is it? Here we go. So, Mike, what can you tell us about the new Model Y?
Oh, where would you like to start? They call it a refresh, and I guess in a very broad stroke, that's true. But there's a lot going on with the Y that is a little bit more than just a traditional refresh. They've changed up some of the electronics. They've left a stock. They've removed one stock, which is the shifting stock. So if you want to shift the car, you have to push a button on the screen or push the button in the overhead. But if you want to hit your turn signal, that's still there. So Old Faithful will still be there. So you can hit your, go right, go left. Remains to be seen if they fix the wipers yet. I'm kind of looking forward to that. But they've got ventilated seats now. They've got a screen in the back for your passengers. Obvious changes are the front and back. We've got the light bar front and back now. Um, there seems to be quite the debate on the community about that light bar. I've seen renderings where people have removed it, and personally speaking, I like it removed. I'm not a fan of the light bar the way it sits today. If I
So
were a
let's
Cybertruck,
talk
I'd
about
buy
that.
one.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
You know, so the light bar, it evokes the Cybertruck and then also the
Very strongly.
Cybercab that we saw. The thing is, I know Elon wants to look like the future, but I mean, this look, even when the Cybercab came out, it basically looks like the Volkswagen. I can't remember what it was, XL1 or something like that. It was a sort of a Volkswagen concept vehicle, and I don't know that this is futuristic anymore. Like, I feel like that front light bar thing is stale at this point, isn't it?
I
think so.
called it dated, but stale works. I do kind of like how they smoothed out the front and got rid of the little bubble lip. So that's nice. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's a minor update. I mean there are a lot of minor updates. Now, one thing's interesting that people won't generally pick up on unless you've either been a victim of it or you're paying attention. On the back of the trunk, below the light bar, is now a separate panel. And what people who have been a victim of this, myself included, when you get hit in the rear, it's almost always guaranteed to replace that entire rear hatch because that lower panel is not a separate piece. So even if the hatch is fine, the glass is fine, everything's fine, if you get a dent in there, they replace the entire hatch. Now, with that being a panel, there's a fighting chance that they can just repair that one small panel and leave the hatch alone and reduce the cost. I hope that's true.
Yeah, so what it looks like is they've made the rear diffuser more proud, or at least
They
the part.
have.
I don't know if it's part of the rear diffuser or it's yeah, if we can get more of a profile view of that, Lewis, I think
I'm not sure we got a shot that actually shows.
I don't.
yeah, that one right
This one.
there. Can you
Yeah.
zoom in or something?
This is as zoomed as it's going to
Okay,
get.
well, so we can sort of see that the rear diffuser is a bit proud. So for a normal vehicle hitting it, maybe that's what gets damaged as opposed to, and that's plastic, right? Or like, sort of, black plastic as opposed to
when I got
painted
rear-ended
body
by a
panel.
Toyota, I got a Toyota bump, not a Honda bump. I got a Toyota bump. It hit the diffuser, which is the plastic piece below, and it hit me just below my license plate on the metalwork that's between the gap and the license plate. Now, I was lucky. I was able to get a PDR guy to pull that out. But if I had not been able to do that, they were talking about replacing the entire rear hatch.
And PDR is paintless dent repair.
Paintless dent removal.
So I think what they've done now is that license plate is now down in the diffuser, isn't it? As
Yes,
opposed
it is.
to on that. It's kind of funny because that panel looks like pretty blank, doesn't it?
They moved the plate
rear
down.
of the trunk.
So the plate's way down here, off the side.
Yeah. So
We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I think one of the funniest things to me about it is that, look, the Model Y is probably their best. It is their best selling vehicle, and
By far.
they don't want to screw that up. And we've had this discussion so many times about the lack of stocks on the new Model 3, and it turns out that this Model Y will
split
get
the
a stock,
difference.
one stock for
One.
the turn signal.
That's right.
And that was a lot of people were complaining. That's kind of not, Tesla. I don't know if it's a tacit admission of a mistake there, but it's welcome. But to me, it's unbalanced. Oh, you get one stock?
Well,
Like, why not?
And
mean,
that's really
give me
kind of
two?
interesting because Elon had to personally approve that design.
For sure.
I mean, some little design engineer didn't sign this off without the
Well,
blessing of the boss.
some people probably lobbied him quite a bit, and some people probably lost their jobs lobbying him about it.
I imagine so.
Uh,
I mean, I've
At
said
least-
many times with the stocks, right? The turn signal's the only one that I care about. I don't ever miss the stock for going, which gear shift and all that. But the turn signal for roundabouts when you're in a turn, being able to signal partway through.
Cars have done
know.
push button shifting for decades. I mean, this is not new. From the 50s on forward, it's always, it kind of comes and goes, it seems to be a generational thing. Somebody tries it, it sucks, and then they go back to stocks, and then the next generation tries it, it goes back to stocks.
Well, it's funny because it's only been since EVs. I'm trying to think.
BMW's got a knob, so
that I went back to, what they call it, 3 on the tree, right? 4 on the floor, 3 on the tree. So that kind of having the shift gears. I mean, the Mercedes had things like that, and that's actually where the Model S got their switch gear. But I was used to manual transmission, with a gear shifter, or a vehicle that has the Prindle, with a thumb press and you pull a lever. I guess the other thing about it is that FSD has gotten better. I don't think I have it, but in terms of version 13, I think that for people who have hardware 4, that the car is willing to go in reverse. And then one thing that's gotten better for me on hardware 3 is the parking assist has gotten a lot better, and it will, it goes forward and back, and I'm not having to do that. So yeah, the need to change directions is less, or at least having it right here, it's just not as necessary. Now what I still use it for is engaging and disengaging autopilot, but I take it, Lewis, you probably have there's a button on the steering wheel.
Button on the steering wheel. Yeah.
So
yeah, you press the right scroll wheel, you just press it down and that engages.
You know what, I'm not that happy with the scroll wheels though on my car. That it's not
Why is that?
It's not it just doesn't feel nice. Doesn't feel nice to press. I'm using it. I use that fairly often for at least on the left side, to like pause audio.
Yeah, mine
it just feels kind of mushy.
Are yours metal?
And weird. No, it's rubbery.
Yeah, mine are cold metal, and that's about the only complaint I've got. They've got kind of a chunky feel when you press them, but as far as rolling response and how they feel when you roll them, they're fine, other than the fact they're hard metal. Now, as far as hardware 4 goes, I've put something in the neighborhood of 1,500 miles in FSD in the last month, since the last upgrade.
Wow.
And it's come a long ways.
And so you got version 13 now.
I do.
You
And
punk.
I'm impressed. It's not perfect, and it still tries to kill me occasionally, but it's gotten a hell of a lot better.
Yeah. So with this new Model Y, so now you got your Model Y. Part of the reason you got it when you got it was you're trying to get it before.
I wanted
now. How would you feel about it now? That you do have a turn signal stock. I saw when I was going through the specs on the new Y, none of it really jumped out at me. Said this I have to have. Oh yeah.
Yeah, none of it. I mean,
what do you think?
They've supposedly even revamped the suspension again, which is good. It's a point in their favor, because the Y suspension from the beginning has been marginal.
What do you think I would like about it?
It's new.
No. The thing that
the possible front camera.
Yeah, the thing you're always getting on me about, I'm getting on them about, is the front camera. It has a front camera.
That's what they say. I haven't seen it yet, but that's what they say.
I mean, I wouldn't see, okay, when we saw the Model 3, when we had this discussion last year, about the new Model 3 coming out, renderings or images, I think it actually did have a front camera at some point.
But it didn't keep it.
And we didn't get it. I think at this point they would have it. I mean, the Cybertruck has a front camera. It really should have a front camera. I guess there's a bit of an issue about keeping it clean, but honestly, that's a solved problem. It's just like whether they're willing to spend the money for it. Routing. Honestly, if the camera itself had a nice kind of whatever they're calling nano coating or whatever, the
ceramic.
Silica, ceramic coating,
it's the water shedding fingerprint.
Yeah, if they have some hydrophobic coating and a wash jet, That's all you need, you know?
Yeah, but they've been doing that for 30 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is a solid problem. The question is, are they going to spend the money to do that? The fact that the Cybertruck has it, the fact that they have it on the, it's been shown on the Cybercab. I think they would do it. I think there is the intention for it. I think hardware 4 probably, I don't know if it's using that input yet, but it probably can and should, you know?
Yeah, hardware 4 has the input on the board for another camera.
I mean, part of the issue is, how do you deal with an occluded camera? And, you know, I really think Tesla should work on that. I've complained many times about,
Well,
you know,
even Tesla
false
is
alarms in
acknowledging
terms of
that now. I
occluded.
mean, now they've got something in the owner's manual about having to take your front camera housing apart to clean the windshield right in front of it.
Really?
Yeah, that's actually in
Because
the Y manual now.
of moisture inclusion or what?
Crap gets on the glass. Yeah,
From the inside?
from the inside. There's actually what's supposed to go in there once a year and clean that glass.
That's impossible. Once a year is no way, unless they give you a specific access. Because I've seen, you know, just reports of people having to get their front windshield
And in
replaced.
fact, my Y has set an alert on the screen saying clean front camera glass.
Okay, but they must mean it the outside, right?
No, they're talking the inside.
How? How?
Wipe it off.
It's
dude.
all sealed up, isn't it?
Not really. It's just a plastic shell wrapped around things.
Okay. Well, that's anyway. Anyway, so just to finish up with the new Y, it's interesting. It's progress. I'm glad that it looks different from the 3. Though I have to say, I prefer the look of the newer 3 to this. The light bar at this point, like, is kind of feeling a little bit stale.
Well, so here's a question for you, Doug and Lewis. One of the things that's happening is, you see that blue color for our viewers. It's a frontal shot of the new Y in what
the glacier
they
blue.
call it glacier blue, which is about half as light as my dark blue. I kind of like this blue, at least from what I've seen. I saw a story on Reddit where somebody was saying they had ordered a Y for a May delivery. They flagged it and called them and said, "Hey, you have to change it to glacier blue. We won't give you the dark blue, or you can change it to some other color one time."
That's fine. I mean, Tesla, again, saves money by having very few color options. And what that does is allows them to not have so many turnovers in their paint shop.
That makes mine a classic now.
I guess. New colors come and go. It's nice to have some changes and little things that allow nerds like us to better say, oh, that must be from this year because the color changed or whatever. That's fine. Especially since anyone can do whatever they want with a wrap these days.
True enough.
I mean, it's closer, you know, a color that's close to my heart was the Miata Laguna Blue, which I had on my 94 MX-5 that I owned for, 15 years or so. And that is not quite it, but it's getting closer to it. And I kind of like it. There was, when the Tesla Roadster, the original Tesla Roadster, all those bodies were made at the Lotus plant in Hethel, England. And, Lotus has tons of colors. And so there was a glacier blue back then. And I tend to think it was about this color, maybe a little lighter.
Okay.
But yeah, the Roadster had tons of color options because they were the Lotus colors, but they just renamed them. Like there's a color that was called, I think it was called laser blue, and Tesla called it electric blue, or like magnetic blue. Like it was just a name change.
The same paint, yeah.
Same paint, just a different name, yeah. So
of course.
Well, I mean that's kind of what's going on with the Y. Minor. Well, I guess you could call some major. Like
no, I think there are major improvements. Ventilated seats. Once you've tried them, they're a huge.
Been wanting that for a very long time.
Yeah, that was the one thing that I would really want from the new 3 versus my 3, my 2018 is ventilated seats.
Yeah, but is that enough to get me to buy a new Y? No.
No, it's not enough to get me to get a new 3. Yeah.
But perhaps in a year you'll have a stock and you'll have a front camera and you'll have the ventilated seats.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
they're starting to build up those
Hit
features.
critical mass.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, what kind of incentive will I get?
Hardware
because
4.
I'm supposed to be, because I'm supposed to get. Elon said he'll make us whole, right? So.
I mean, just wait till next year. You'll get hardware 5. You don't need hardware 4. And
Well, that's
well, next year you have Optimus driving you
wonderful.
around. Optimus will be supervised driving, so.
yeah.
that's great. All right.
That's the why in a nutshell.
Okay. Hey, so why don't we talk about our predictions for last year?
The
How
wonderful
close we were.
the wonderful predictions of I have to say, looking at when we were looking through and seeing all the answers, I was it wasn't that bad. we definitely were wrong on some of them for sure, but
Yeah. In fact,
We got pretty close on a couple of them.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was fun. So it was episode number 57 from last year, where we went over our predictions for 2023 and made new predictions for 2024. So now this will be our annual tradition and do that. So let's dig in. So predictions for 2024. So let's see. So the question was, will Tesla unveil a brand new model in 2024? And here's the answers. Basically we all said, let me read the question exactly. It says, will Tesla unveil a brand new model, something they do not sell currently, have not sold in the past, or have not announced they will sell, such as a redesigned Roadster, in 2024? And we all said no. We basically all said no. I said, I hope not, because I was complaining about Tesla unveiling something and then taking 5 years to deliver it, literally. And then I said I would like to see them do a box van. Okay, so we were all wrong, because Tesla did unveil the Robotaxi at the Cybercab event. Actually, they called it the We Robot event. And our past couple episodes, 2 episodes ago was our sort of live watch party. That's how infrequent we've been recent. Two episodes ago was the We Robot event. That was our live watch party of that. And then we had a Redux event about a month ago, like the end of November or so. We did a show about that. And I said I wanted a van. They did kind of show a van, the Robovan, they called it. I wanted a box van, like a delivery van, just another segment of things that I think, we need to replace the diesel vehicles on the road. So like the UPS trucks and those sort of things. And Rivian has done some of that. And I think Tesla could be in that.
It could be
in that,
if they
that
chose
place
to.
too, especially since they're doing a semi. And as they continue to do the semi, they could have a modified semi where, just they put a box on the back of that thing. And I think that would be great. But instead they showed the Robovan, which looked like something out of iRobot, and it looked completely impractical. It had the ground clearance of, a pack of cards or something, it was completely impractical. So I don't know. And I kind of feel like, just to comment, they did finally start delivering the Cybertruck, and, that has people are interested in that, but it just wasn't that practical. You have a certain look to it. Tesla would have done gangbusters if they literally just made a, what we considered the Tesla design language, between the S and the X or whatever, and just made a truck version of that, a pickup truck version of that.
Mm-hmm.
They would have done great. The highest selling vehicles in this country
Truckula
are pickup trucks.
Yeah, the 3 highest selling models of vehicles are pickup trucks. Just literally F1 or the 150s, and then Chevy, and then Dodge.
Yeah,
Rams.
and so the Cybertruck, and we've had this discussion, in terms of the electric options, it's neat for what it is. It's got some neat new technology, but it's divisive and, it's a little off topic, but, my dad is now 93 years old, and I've been driving him around a lot lately because he wants to go someplace. And I'm like, okay, my dad's 93. He wants to go someplace. I'm going to take him there, and we were in DC, and there was a big old Cybertruck with a wrap that made it like black, like a matte black or whatever. And he's like, what is that? What is like, and with like, what is that piece of, I'm not going to say what he said. And I just had to explain. I was like, who makes that? I'm like, it's Tesla. And he's just like, he doesn't keep up with these things, but it doesn't look like my 3. My 3 looks, nice and sleek. And what's this thing? This like brutalist, Judge Dredd vehicle. So anyway, it is what it is. Okay.
So we were all wrong.
Yeah,
Robotaxi.
We're all wrong. Robotaxi. Okay. Will Tesla get a publicly facing COO? And related to that was like, we had discussions like, will Elon step down? Those kind of things. There was a bit of controversy with Elon at the time, especially with the acquisition of Twitter and whatnot. And, and he spread so thin, and SpaceX does so great with Gwynne Shotwell. Will, someone else step up for Tesla? And we've all said they should, but they won't. And, and if we're going to make a prediction for next year, it'll probably be the same, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely not. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is an easy one.
That's an easy one. We should say real quick, let's predict for next year. Will Tesla unveil a new model in 2025?
It's a good question. New model as in not anything they previously talked about. I feel like they're going to have to because of their stock price. It sounds more like he hinted at some more roadster updates in the last few months.
Yeah, but that's not new.
That's not new. Yeah, he talked about, there's been some leaks around how now he's trying to get to like 1 second 0 to 60 instead of just 1.99.
Oh, you said that last year.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. But he said it like a few months ago, though.
Oh, he said it again because he said it over a year ago, and we've talked about how that's ridiculous. I mean,
So I think they're starting to work on that. But do I think there's going to be anyway? To the point of the question, do I think there's going to be a new vehicle? Probably not. But unless they might do some crazy thing just because again stock price. But I don't see them. I don't know. I'm saying no.
Yeah, I guess no. The thing is, what they should be doing, right? At this point, there should be a refresh on the Model X. There should be a refresh on the Model S. They're small potatoes compared to, the volumes on the Model Y and, the Model 3. But these should be the more luxury vehicles. They should invest something in that and go ahead and charge a premium for them or whatever for the people that want them and make them actually better. Do it. And then, there should be a van. There should be a proper pickup truck. So anyway, did you have any comments, Mike?
I think the Y will be the next, excuse me, iteration. I think they're going to use the underpinnings of the Y in the interior as their new vehicle. They'll build a mommy car out of it, like a van.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe. Okay, let's go on. Let's see.
I don't think it'll be an X or an S. I don't think that's going to go anywhere.
Yeah. Will Tesla offer FSD transfers in 2024? Let's see. What did we say?
I said yes. You said no, and Mike didn't really give an answer.
Yeah. So Lewis was right. They did offer it. Can you
Several
elaborate,
times.
Lewis?
I mean, they keep offering it, right? They've done it a few times. I mean, we can get into it later. I know I saw Stefan in the chat made a comment about hardware 3 users, will never get an upgrade. That's their prediction. I think that this is, I have a feeling that they're either working towards an upgrade of some kind, or they're concerned about liability, and they're really pushing towards trying to get people off of hardware 3. So I think that they're going to keep offering this FSD transfer.
Yeah, so I agree. So that's, if we push forward in terms of predicting for 2025. Yeah, they'll offer it when they need it, and they're going to be especially offering it to people like me to try to reduce the number of folks that they have to do something for. And then the question is, what do they do if they're able to get those numbers down smaller and smaller? Because then it makes less sense for them to do a proper upgrade, right? Because there's fewer people to do it. Because I think the only way they could really do it is they would have to design a board specifically for us.
Yes.
That will have the connections with the hardware we already have, and then also have the form factor
right now, and you're going to be a smaller footprint in the 3 years it takes to build the board.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see that being very practical, especially with the Ys bricking themselves because of the board defects they've got right now.
Well, that's just an early. I mean, yeah, those guys will probably need a replacement as it is. That's that to me, that's like the ring of death issue with the Xbox 360. It's
ring of death on your Y.
That's a testing problem. That's a what do you call it, Lewis?
QA,
yeah, quality
assurance. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, they'll fix that. But the issue is...
Well, they will, but that's time and effort and resources they won't be able to apply to a 3 upgrade.
Yeah, well, you would hope that they would be iterating that anyway. And certainly at the chip level, they're, someone is doing yield ramp for them, and, so that stuff is happening.
TSMC.
Or should be happening. So the question is, maybe they can just take that same chip, but they'll need a new motherboard. I don't know. Maybe it's not that bad. I don't know. Maybe it can be done if they can keep the same chip and just somebody designs the board that fits in it and let it work with the existing hardware. Because I doubt they want to change out cameras. They can probably get by without having to change out cameras. So.
But I want new cameras. No,
I do want new cameras. I want cameras that can actually read license plates when people hit and run me at night, which has happened twice. So. While I'm parked. Okay, let's see. Next one. Okay, so the question was, in 2023, Tesla opened 11,000 new Supercharger stalls, reaching a global total of 50,000. Given the worldwide popularity of the Model Y and how Tesla is opening Superchargers to other vehicles, wow, it feels so dated now. What do you think the worldwide total will be? This is Supercharger stalls by the end of 2024. Now, Mike guessed 65,000. I guessed 70,000, and Lewis guessed 75,000. And the answer turned out to be 67,000. Yes. Now, why?
So let's be very clear, though. I feel like this was rigged against me because Elon fired all of the supercharging staff.
That's true.
Partway through the year.
They did.
We had a pretty good episode about that. That was like in the summer or something. Or when was that? When did that happen?
That was such a cluster.
I think it was about that summer. It was around the summer or so. But yeah, fired all the supercharging people.
I remember,
and then hired them back.
What were the percentages on that? Because a lot of those people moved on, and we had a whole show.
They didn't hire the woman that originally ran the Supercharger.
Well, I mean, that's the only person that should have been fired. Well, she shouldn't have been fired to begin with, but that was the only one that made sense to fire, given the way Elon.
She was arguing
reacted.
for her people. She was doing the right thing.
Yeah. If you have an issue with an executive over the whole department, you don't fire the whole department. Usually, you fire the executive and you bring in a different executive.
Except the argument was about firing more people in her department, and then it was just kind of let's just
the scorch earth.
Let me really show you.
Let me really fire everybody.
Yeah, that was kind of rough. And so that probably slowed things down. It certainly put some existing projects up in disarray. There's certainly an amount of institutional knowledge and just point of contact, like who to reach, for certain things. And with those people gone,
things as simple as a lease. Who do I talk to about my lease I just signed with Tesla?
That being said, in 2023 they added 11,000 new superchargers. In 2024 they added 17,000. So they did increase almost by 50%, or about.
I want to qualify one thing. They did add the stalls that we're talking about, including the version 4 Magic Dock stations. Mm-hmm. But what they ended up doing is they pulled back the Magic Dock and said, yeah, we're not going to give you that right now.
Right.
So none of the Magic Docks around here work. Not as they should. You can't pull the Magic Dock out. You have to use an adapter. Even though the dock's there, even though the adapter's there, even though it all works, it will charge cars. You cannot use the CCS adapter of the version 4. It's locked in place.
And what vehicle do you use to test that?
I use that on my Bolt.
A Chevy Bolt.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen. So I've done quite a bit of driving since that firing. Right. I drove to Texas and I drove to Florida, and in that time, I saw a lot of version 4 cabinets, and it's kind of interesting because it's better. You back up to them, and nice. It seems like it's set up to charge a vehicle with a outlet on the right side.
Yeah,
but it's long enough for me to reach over to my left side.
I can reach over to the left side on the Bolt. I can pull straight in, center on the dock, pull around, charge. It's great. Yeah,
it seems less protected. There aren't like the big bollards sort of, in the way. Well, but I don't know if people are crashing into them or what. But so I saw plenty of chargers and rarely had to wait. For my travels, so they're doing a good job, and it's still the reason I don't know how well it's doing for folks on other vehicles, but it's still the main reason I will recommend Tesla to people.
With the adapters, according to the various subreddits I'm in, it's actually working very well. People are generally pretty happy.
So I guess, again, this one, we give it to Mike. Mike got it right. If we're doing Price is Right rules. If they hadn't done the firing, Doug probably would have been right.
Maybe.
I probably still overshot either way, but yeah.
You were optimistic.
But hey.
I was optimistic. Yeah.
We're all like pretty freaking close. I mean.
It's fair. I mean.
It's fair. That's pretty good, I think. So anyway. All right, let me find the next one here. Okay, so back in 2020,
I think you skipped one, but that's
did I?
Yeah. I guess to talk about last year, it doesn't necessarily have a prediction for this year. The Gigafactory Mexico or Megafactory Shanghai.
Yeah.
Let's see. I guess I forgot to put that one in there. So let me.
It's all good.
Let me go ahead and add it now.
Here I'll talk you this one. So this one is, will another vehicle, Tesla or otherwise, dethrone Model Y as the world's best-selling car? And the answers that we gave, Doug said no, Mike said no, and I said yes. However, my yes was thinking about like BYD and some other competitors.
Yeah.
And the correct answer is yes. So it was dethroned. I was correct in it being dethroned. But I was wrong in what dethroned it. It was the Toyota Corolla, which blew my brain because I did not think that car was so popular anymore.
For many years, it was the most popular.
It was the most popular car for like a decade, right?
It's cheap and it's reliable. I mean,
and
what do you want?
Yeah.
but like for it to come back in 2024 and crush, like I wouldn't have expected that. But yeah.
Well, is it that they crushed, or is it that Tesla kind of slipped a bit? And I feel like that might be it.
Tesla lost a lot of sales from year past.
So this is for the first time in 2024, Tesla sold fewer vehicles than the previous year.
Correct.
And there could be many reasons for that. You know, part of it is there's been a misreported softening on EVs. I think what it is just the rate of increase in EV sales has reduced, but I think still like I haven't checked, but I think still in 2024 more EVs were sold than the previous year. It's just that there are more options, not just Tesla.
Right.
And, you know, it's hard to say how much this has affected things, but certainly Elon's reputation has changed some. Elon, as the face of the company, has kind of soured for people that are like, you know, I want to buy an environmental vehicle. And, you know, Elon's image hasn't really aligned with those values.
There's definitely a shift in which segments of the population are Elon or pro Elon versus anti Elon, right? That's definitely shifted. A lot of it having to do with Twitter and things like that. I think another factor, and I don't know how much this is, I'm actually curious what you guys think. Obviously the global economy, right? So exchange rates for the USD to other currencies, USD has been incredibly strong. A lot of different countries' economies have been slow to recover due to inflation, all the other types of stuff going on. Do you think that was a factor, or does Tesla not raise their prices based on that? Because I personally don't know what the pricing is outside of the US. I haven't looked.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's got a lot to do with it. I think what has more to do with it, I think Doug alluded to this a little bit, is there's a limited pool of buyers for EVs at any point in time. And for the longest time, the only real EV of any caliber was Tesla. That's not true today, because when you look at GM's growth and you look at Honda's, the new Prologue, and some of the other new cars that have come out on the market, they're doing really well, despite all the naysayers, you know, in the talking heads on the news talking about how bad sales are. Their sales are actually doing quite well. GM's up, you know, Honda's up, and Honda's up because it's a brand new EV. Well, to them it's brand new. It's a GM underneath the skin, but you know, they're not complaining. And
yeah, but I mean, I guess
the smaller players.
And I guess the other stuff too, like you said, like I assume BYD eroded a lot of Tesla stuff in China, right? Because
China,
you know, was one of Tesla's big markets for a bit, briefly.
I think they took a pretty big hit.
And BYD has been doing things that, you know, you've been hoping that Tesla would do. We didn't. It deserves its own topic. And maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode, but I can't even remember the name. But basically, BYD has this roadster type vehicle, and they have a suspension system where it like jumps over stuff. It's almost like Turbo Boost from Knight Rider.
Wasn't that Speed Racer that we used to bounce the car?
Yes,
yeah,
Speed Racer
did that. Yeah. And so that's the kind of, like, you know, given the personality that Elon has, that's the kind of thing that Elon would have Tesla working on, except that he's had them, you know, coming up with solutions like cold gas thrusters, which makes no sense. But having some kind of, you could have like some kind of linear induction motor type suspension system that could, you know, basically hop over stuff. Or for many years, you know, Bose from, you know, the Bose sound system guy. He was an MIT professor, and he worked on this thing called Project Sound. And I had some friends that were TAs of his class back at MIT. And one thing they demonstrated, this Project Sound thing, was this active suspension system on vehicles. This is back in the 90s, where, you know, you could basically drive over a very bumpy road, but the car itself stays stationary. So it's very good feedback control system type stuff. I suppose there are some patents on that, but I don't know, it's been 20 years, so it's probably expired by now. And, you know, those are the kind of things Tesla should be doing.
Right.
Yeah, make, you know, That's the complaint I have when I'm driving my 93-year-old dad around in my Model 3. I hit a pothole or something. He's like, ooh, ooh, like I don't know. He feels all that stuff in his bones now, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me a suspension system that I can turn on and off that will, make the car feel like I'm just, driving on a
the
perfectly
cloud.
flat surface. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I feel like modern car improvements that I really want are just like smoother ride, quieter ride, that kind of stuff. And it's like, I
Or
feel like
something that you
they
can dial in.
haven't
from the
done enough.
cockpit.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want a smoother ride. Sometimes I want to feel really sporty, and I want to be able to, feel a dime or a quarter when I drive over it or whatever.
Right.
So anyway, yeah. So this BYD thing, it looks so cool. It's like jumping over I don't know. And there's like a huge hole, like a sinkhole, and just like jumping over it. I'm like,
Yeah.
do that, Tesla. That's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
And forget the gas thrusters.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think it's a bad idea to basically go to zero traction. So you'd only do that in a straight line. But let's see. Someone said Tesla is the wrong brand for that. They make really nice all-around cars, though, with great software. I think Tesla is the right brand for doing hardware that's electric. Basically, a motor type thing. And put that in the suspension system. I think Tesla could do that kind of thing.
And I would say like maybe even a little bit recently, but certainly some years back, Tesla is a big operator for pushing the boundaries, right? Trying new things, trying things that other companies weren't willing to do.
And Stefan says they don't do premium. Well, they used to, or they
exactly.
used to, at least in name, they used to say they were. Doing
They
premium.
They used to pretend to be premium.
They pretend to be premium.
And that was a big debate back in the day.
Yeah.
Like, should Tesla even go down market? If you have your fancy Model S and your Model X, and Cybertruck is trying to be premium, even though they obviously did a lot of cost cutting type things there.
Yeah.
So.
I wish they were. I wish they were premium. Obviously, the money is in the mass market, so I think that's important to do that. But I mean, just throw a couple engineers on the premium. Just keep the premium stuff going. It's not like you need
Maybe
100
actually
people.
deliver the Roadster.
Yeah.
So
you don't need 100 people working on the premium car all the time. But anyway.
Okay. So the question was,
will another vehicle dethrone the Model Y as the world's best-selling car? And the answer was yes.
So the answer was it did. I think. Okay. So let's sort of alter this question for 2025. Will the Model Y regain the best-selling vehicle? You could say part of the reason there were less sales, or fewer sales, I should say, of the Model Y is that we all knew this Juniper was coming, and while Tesla kept saying, they kept trying to downplay it, so they didn't Osborne themselves. Now it's finally here, so maybe that will juice the Model Y sales, and maybe we'll put them over the top.
No,
I'm going still with no.
Nope.
I don't think so.
So to the question of will the Model Y regain the throne, you're saying no.
I don't think
I
so.
think they've lost
Okay,
it.
I'll say yes, just to be different.
Cool. Perfect.
All right. So the question you said we skipped was, will Gigafactory Mexico or Mega Factory Shanghai open in calendar year 2024? Now, we all said no on Mexico, and we said yes on this Mega Factory in Shanghai just because they can build things so quickly in China. And the answer was neither open.
We were almost right.
Yeah. They were doing testing in Shanghai, but it's not officially open.
Yeah. Officially opens, I think, in like the next month.
Okay, so for 2025, for this year, that Shanghai factory will definitely open.
Definitely opens.
Absolutely.
I'm going to say still no on Mexico.
No
because
on Mexico.
is all in the air now since the new administration wants to have a ton of tariffs against our nearest neighbor allies. So, and you definitely sensed a change in Elon in terms of putting the brakes on Mexico. So
they made some comments earlier in the year, or in last year, basically saying that they were waiting for the election before deciding to move forward. So they'd kind of paused it already. And now that the election has gone the way that it has, and also with Elon, so it's kind of a mixed bag, right? Because Elon is embedded into this administration. He's connected to the administration. So if there is financial incentive, as there is an actual benefit to Tesla to do it, and Elon, you would imagine, has some influence into it, he could make an argument for it to be viable again. That being said, it's also possible they just say, never mind, and they just never do it. But either way, I don't think it happens this year.
I mean, the other thing was, what was that Mexico plant for? And our speculation last year, a year ago, was that it was for this Model 2, this lower cost vehicle.
So what they said, actually, I looked it up. So it is slated for the next gen vehicle. So that robo taxi, maybe not, or like some other car.
Back then, our assumption was the Model 2, because the information we had back then, partially from the Isaacson biography, was that Cybercab and Model 2, we were calling it, the lower cost vehicle, were the same platform, and that would happen. And more recently, it seems Elon is stepping back from that and saying Model 2 won't happen, but you'll be able to buy a Cybercab. But I don't see why anybody would actually want to buy a car.
A vehicle with no steering wheel.
It only seats two.
Actually, I don't even know if it's legal to sell something like that. So
he could just put like an Xbox controller there and go, what was Ocean Gate or whatever.
Yeah, they tried that with the sub. We saw.
Yeah, I was gonna say you do a nice little Ocean Gate, Xbox controller to drive your RoboCab.
It was Logitech, actually.
Oh, you're right. It was a Logitech controller.
Oh, you're talking about the Titan.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you got geeks on the same page. It's all about the details.
All right, so we're done with that. Let's see. What was the next question? I think it's this one.
Yes.
Will we see the Model 3 version 2 in the United States? And
AKA Highland.
I think we all said yes.
We all said yes, and it did. Boring.
So at the time we had, thankfully we had Adam, who was a great producer at the time. But that question, we all knew the answer by then, because we had already seen pictures of the Highland, I guess we were calling it, in Europe. So that was definitely going to happen. So let's see.
The next one, Cybertrucks. Ooh.
Okay. How many Cybertrucks will be on the road by the end of 2024? Now, again, when we did this thing a year ago, the Cybertruck deliveries had recently happened, but they kind of felt like not quite real deliveries, because they just it felt like internal people that got them. And they did this big delivery event that was 4 years after the original unveiling. And that delivery event was pretty disappointing in a way, because the main thing that we were so impressed by in the original unveiling in 2019 was there was going to be, I forget if it was 50 or 60, but let's just say a $60,000. I think it actually might have even been 40.
It was supposed to be pretty cheap.
It was a really cheap version of the car. Like, wow, they're going to do that. And they didn't quite do that. The range was much lower than expected. So anyway, it was a little disappointing on that. But in terms of technology, it's interesting. The 48-volt architecture for the low voltage, and the steer-by-wire, and the all-wheel steering. That was cool. So anyway, we were basically saying the options that we were given by Adam at the time was fewer than 5,000. This is by the end of 2024. More than 5,000, but fewer than 10K, and then more than 10K. So we all said more than 10K, though we definitely caveated that, this is an exponential kind of thing. And, it was certainly possible that they could stumble, but we said more than 10K. And another thing we were talking about is how many would they actually get out by the end of Q1. And I'm like, well, if the ramping is going well, they should hopefully have 1,000, over 1,000 deliveries by the end of Q1. And I think we're all pretty spot on. We basically all said the same thing. And it turns out the actual deliveries by the end of Q1 was 2,800, so 2,800. And so same order of magnitude. And then by the end of 2024...
Typical physicist, as long as it's the same order of magnitude, you count it. No, I'm sorry. I'm teasing.
Consider the spherical cow, okay? So
sure, yes, exactly. The spherical cow.
And then the total number sold by the end of 2024 was almost 40K, almost 40,000. So it was definitely more than 10,000, and 40,000 is what they needed to do. I mean, 40,000 is what they did. It's 38,965. However, how's it going now?
Not great.
Not so good.
Yes, Stefan's right. Like they keep sending people home, so they keep like I see it a lot locally because they build them here in Austin, so I see it in the news here where it's like all the contractors are sent home. They're told not to come back in. They'll let them know. So that's happened several times.
This is the factory in Texas
in Austin, correct? So they've done that a couple times. There's definitely a lot of them just sitting in lots right at the factory. But I do see a lot driving. I do see a lot of them driving around.
Well, certainly in Austin. Right. I see the occasional one in the DC area. I saw a good number in Florida.
I think there's 3 in my neighborhood. There's like 2 in the neighborhood next to me. Like, so I see them daily.
I mean, the main thing is you notice them when you see them, but it's obviously nowhere near like the number of Model 3s I don't even register. Then
I see way more Model Ys, right? Model Ys everywhere.
Ys everywhere.
And so, one thing we talked about last year was how long would this foundation series go on? Because that was essentially a way of Tesla capturing that extra value of
early adopters that
high
can afford
demand,
it,
or at least the supply not meeting the demand at early on in the manufacturing ramp. So it was basically an extra 20K. And so the question is, how long would they do this foundation series? And we're like, well, they'll do it as long as they can, obviously. And so the foundation series ended, I think, in October of 2024. So that's 11 months that they did it. But we've heard reports of basically foundation series vehicles being available, but they are basically sanding off the badging, the special badging, and trying to sell them as standard vehicles. So that's not great necessarily. And so what, everyone that wanted one has one, or what's the sense?
Absolutely. I don't think there's a wait list at this point. I think if you want it, you got it.
The market's saturated. You've got all the YouTubers and influencers have got their toys, and that's it.
Well, it is a very, as I said earlier, it's a very controversial design. I'm okay with it, but it's not something I would go out of my way to get. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
Stefan's right. They had 2 million.
They put a lot of capacity in it. Now I don't know how they're set up in Texas, if it's like multiple lines or whatever. Is there a way to divert a line for some other vehicle? Or
so I think the factory setup would support that, but no, the way that of what I've seen in like the tours and things that people have filmed and shown what was inside is they pretty much have dedicated lines because the manufacturing of the panels and stuff is so different, right? So they so I think those lines, like I said, it's been in the media a few times locally here. That's obviously gets picked up nationally because Tesla, but where they sent contractors home and they're like, there's no work, don't come in. Now some of that could be, they're making changes, they're retooling lines, they're doing things, but what it seems to be is just, it's like they can now outproduce the demand for the Cybertruck. So Yeah, I
How
don't
do
know.
they manage that going forward? Because they've made such a large investment in that plant. I mean, what do
So
you do to shift
I
to make
think
that profitable again?
I think the main change is the RoboCab or the Cybercab or the RoboTaxi or whatever the heck it's called. I think that is now going to be manufactured in Texas as well instead of being manufactured in Mexico. And that also has like the stainless and some of the other things. So there's a lot of overlap in what
I
Cybertruck was
don't
doing.
actually. I mean, it had that look, but I don't think it actually had stainless.
Oh, okay.
The one I saw at the car show was.
Was it? Because Sandy Monroe was looking at one, and he said it was like painted carbon fiber or something like that.
No,
I mean, they
the one at
painted
the
kind
car
of
show was
gold.
stainless.
Did you
Or-
tap on it? Did you get to touch it?
No, we could not get close enough to touch it. But it
Yeah,
didn't look like a wrap of any kind I've seen before.
not
so.
a wrap, but painted like a metallic paint. But anyway, yeah,
We'll find out soon enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd be surprised. Like, I would think because of the tooling and stuff. So, for example, what I'll say is a few weeks ago here, there was another massive plane that came in. It's like the biggest cargo aircraft from Italy. The assumption was that it was carrying another gigapress.
Gigapress, yeah.
So I think they did just deliver one to the Tesla factory. And again, this is like 2-3 weeks ago at most. Like I think it was, that recent. So yeah. So they're definitely not like, they're not doing no production. They're not shutting everything down. They're still doing work there. And my assumption was robo taxi or whatever, but maybe not.
Well, ideally, I mean, we had this discussion about the Cybercab, and the Cybertruck too. Like, ideally, this stainless production, if they get it down, it should be cheaper somehow, right? And
Correct.
easier somehow. The issue I see with it though is it's basically a pedestrian hazard. Like, they need to do something that it's not so sharp, and it's
Yes.
not, these sharp panels. Like the Cybercab, especially, that needs to be really pedestrian friendly.
Yeah.
If it hits somebody or whatever, I've suggested you might have some sort of little gaskets you run around, you insert in those body panel gaps on something like the Cybertruck to just cover those sharp edges. Maybe they can do something like that. I don't know, but or just run some caulking along it.
Caulking. Little
Something.
dial cock there, yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Yeah, Stefan says it's not even legal in most of the world. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it was definitely made for the US, made for Texas, made with hubris, right? Yeah.
And I will say I've met multiple people here locally that have them and love them, and it's definitely divisive.
And when I drove down to Brownville, Texas, back in November for one of the Starship launches, that was number 6, I guess, and saw tons of Cybertrucks and really cool people, and and they a lot of them had like special wraps on them, and looked like fun, and people that have them really enjoy them. But yeah, that seems to be a relatively small amount of folks. All right, here's the next question. Will we see a driverless ride from the West Coast to the East Coast? Now, in 2024, we all said no,
Nope.
Nope.
and the answer was no. And will we see one in 2025?
Nope.
So if you take into consideration how good FSD V13 is, the answer is no.
No.
Boy, what a lead up.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
They're making steps, right?
They are
Yes.
making steps.
Hardware
It ain't there yet.
13,
It's
or
not.
I'm sorry,
Hardware-
FSD 13.
Hardware 4.
Hardware 4, or AI 4 if they want to be fancy
Yeah.
about it. FSD 13 is better. And then part of
is
this,
significantly better.
and part of the Cybercab design is a inductive charging
Mhm.
idea. So maybe we'll start seeing those someplace, and maybe something will be able to do that, but it won't be next year.
There, I'm still confident in my prediction that I made. I don't know what it was, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where I said 2030.
Yeah.
2030
that's right.
still looking plausible to me.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been our constant thing is like, okay, for this to be possible, we're still on a level 2 system, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's basically an ADAS, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we need level 4, level 5 autonomy for this to be practical. And we don't think that's happening till the end of this decade.
It's more than that. I mean, you're going to need to make sure we don't have an Arctic winter blast or your cameras get occluded. You won't be able to see where you're going. So,
well,
yeah, but see, here's the thing. I would even give them that, right? Like, I'm personally, I'll give them credit if you have to still manually charge it. You have to clean the cameras or do anything. It doesn't do it if it's bad weather. You just have to wait out bad weather. Like all those things, I would still give it to them if they could get coast to coast. I still don't think it's doable. Like I just don't think it's doable without intervention with the tech. So
that's no missed exits, no blown stop signs, whatever.
Yeah. So we'll see. Yeah. But yeah, so still going with no.
Okay. All right.
Oh boy.
The next question was, and this is, basically the last question we had for 2024. Will Tesla deliver a Roadster 2.0 in 2024? Now, I have to point out that the nomenclature is bad here because Tesla used 2.0 back in 2009 for a different, for a updated Roadster back then. There was even a 2.5 that had a different front fascia. So I think what we called it.
I mean, the answer is no either way.
That's right. I'm just trying to get the nomenclature right.
Yeah,
That's a nerdy thing.
The next gen Roadster.
Next gen Roadster. We used to call it Roadster 2020.
That's true. We did.
Because it was unveiled in 2017 and it was supposed to be delivered by 2020.
Kind of missed that.
2017. It was
2017, man. I still remember seeing the unveiling and thinking how cool and like I totally want to buy one of those. I can't believe it's been that long ago.
It was a Steve Jobs and one more thing.
Yes.
To the Tesla Semi event.
Mm-hmm.
That the trailer opened up from the semi.
Wow.
And someone, maybe it was Franz, drove out with this Roadster, and that was really cool. And a bunch of people plunked down money for that. The full price at the time was $250,000. I'm not sure probably they took that amount, and then there was also a deposit,
$50,000 deposit.
$50K deposit. Did some people pay full price at that time too?
Yes.
Oh,
That's a lot of money for a lot of time.
That's a lot of money.
That's a 0 interest loan for coming up on 10 years. We'll see what happens. Yeah, it's right. That's fair though. I was living in France when it happened. So that was 2017. Time flies, man. Yeah, we'll see. So predictions for this year. Will they deliver?
No.
Yeah. Absolutely not.
No.
I'm thinking we might see an update about it. Like we did have some small updates, but they didn't really officially reveal anything. But personally, I think that we might actually get to see like a real, like, hey, this is what we're doing, and it might come out next year. So I'm a little. I don't want to say it's copium because I'm not planning on buying one at this point. But who knows? I might change my mind when I see what they do with it. But yeah. So not this year, maybe next year. Hoping we see an update about it this year.
Well, I mean, the thing is that we were promised a new unveiling by the end of last year, and it didn't happen.
Did not happen.
So that promise was made at the Q4 earnings report back in, I guess that would have been in January or February of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
He said we'll see something by the end of the year, and then come certainly by the time that the Cybercab event happened, basically, and even saying the Roadster is basically, I don't remember how he put it, but it was basically not just the icing on the cake, but let me just say the cherry on top of the icing on the cake or something like that. And I've always said that too, that it should be a lower priority, that the semi should probably be the main priority in terms of doing something that is helpful to the environment or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course the why and things like that are in terms of being profitable for the company. But it's nice to have a proper flagship vehicle. I don't think the Cybertruck is a great flagship vehicle.
Too polarizing.
But the Roadster certainly would be.
Mm-hmm.
And BYD is kind of, I don't know level of quality or whatever at BYD, but certainly they've come along, and we know that China can do quality.
Right.
They're known to be cheap, but we know that they can do quality. And just think about Back to the Future 2 and Doc Brown said, "Here's the problem: this chip was made in Japan." And in the 80s, Michael J. Fox said, "All the best stuff comes from Japan, right?" So Japan used to be, I guess, crappy manufacturing, but they became the best. And we used to talk about Japanese cars, and they became very profitable in the 80s and 90s, right? And then the Hyundai, the Korean
South
vehicles, they were crappy and not safe in the early 90s, and they're great now. And I'm certain that China can do the same. So yeah, I guess we'll see. But I don't think the Roadster will deliver in 2025. Just like I think that actually is a worse deal than us with our FSD. The level, I mean, it's fewer people, but the level at which those people made a commitment and they're still waiting.
Yep.
Man.
I wouldn't be surprised if they gave back some money and we just didn't hear about it, right? Like, it's like, hey, we'll give you back the money for some period, but you got to sign something to agree not to say anything. I could see them doing that.
That's
but
rough. I get my money back and I got to sign an NDA. You think they would do that?
But
just to get my own money back?
But you're still on the list that you're in your slot. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, that's a lot of money. Can you imagine $250,000? Like, sure, the majority of people that gave them $250,000 are quite wealthy and it's not a big deal to them. But I mean, even just in an index fund, right? Like, they're out a lot of money. So it's costing them, the cost is way higher.
I mean, for me to even get my money back, if you wanted me to sign an NDA, you better give me something more than I gave you, because you better give me some interest, what the heck?
I mean, I don't know about that. I don't know that they would do that, but who knows? Maybe not. Maybe they didn't give anyone money back.
Yeah. Think of all the Bitcoin you could have bought with it.
I mean, or Nvidia stock. This is 2017. Anyway, that would have been even better than Bitcoin. All right. So we'll see. All right. So that was our last question that we did for 2024.
Right. So,
and now we have some new questions.
Yeah, we have some new questions. So basically, we did it different than last year in that we integrated, we basically took those questions, just paid most of them forward, but we have a few new questions for 2025. Okay. So let's see. No, that's not that one. Here's this one. When will robotaxi start delivery? Is that the question? Yes. When will robotaxi start delivery? Just a question. So it's open.
Not this year.
Yeah.
Now, did he say? Actually, we had so little information at that We Robot event.
I don't recall a delivery date.
I think now I'm maybe mixing it up with Optimus.
So I thought they were going to do, and I've said this in the past, that even with the existing technology now, certainly with hardware 4 and FSD 13, they could do a geofenced
correct
kind of thing. I think FSD is probably good enough.
Tesla doesn't have the structure to run taxis right now.
They could. They're trying to.
They have
an
the
app.
hardware. They have the hardware, but they don't have the actual business infrastructure.
They can do it.
They could do it.
It could be a pilot program of like 10 cars in Austin or whatever.
Right.
They could certainly do it. And I think probably they should do it. They'll probably learn a lot.
They probably need like 6 months to build out whatever they need to build out. I mean, they have the capital to make it happen.
They certainly have the capital, and I think they have the software infrastructure for it. They just need to extend what they have. They've certainly been preparing for it, and they've showed off their little app or whatever, or a demo of it. Maybe it didn't actually do anything, but and they managed to do essentially that at this We Robot event, right? At the Cybercab
That was a
event.
very controlled
A
environment.
very controlled environment, and they spent a lot of time with people with, LiDAR backpacks, really, really
I'm sure
mapping
they
that
did.
place. But they could do that in the city of Austin, probably. It's certainly more variables. But if they're going to show something, I think that's where they need to start. Then that before the coast to coast drive.
Right.
So something on the
So
level
you
of
think they
the
are going to
Waymo.
geofence and actually do like a localized taxi service, like similar to Waymo or Cruise or something? So you're
Yeah, I
expecting
think they
that?
have to.
Okay.
And I think that's the next logical step. Probably in 2026. I don't think we'll see that
Yeah,
in
but
2025.
I wouldn't say that's starting delivery. That's still
Yeah,
engineering.
that's a different thing. Except that um, robotaxi delivery has never made any sense to me unless
Agree.
unless it's not to consumers, not to me, maybe to Uber or to some other company that's already set up for that wants to be in that business.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to like. I would rather have a Model 3 that I can actually drive, and then my Model 3, I've been promised, will also can
Be a
act as a
taxi.
robotaxi if I want it to, and it will only be driving me around basically. So, drive me to Florida, or drive me to Texas or whatever. Um, so
We need to get you in a Y with hardware 4 on one of your road trips down to see
I-
SpaceX and see if
so-
you
so-
actually get there.
I have to say, so I obviously don't have hardware 4. However, they have an updating hardware 3 pulling in a lot of the things from FSD 13 into FSD 12. So I think we're on like 12.6.6 or something like that. And it is loads better. It is significantly better, like to the point of where I think it is fairly comparable to what people are saying for FSD 13 or V13. So he might already be able to try something that's pretty comparable.
Yeah, that'd be pretty slick. But
Yeah,
I don't think the robo taxis are going to start delivery this year or next year.
yeah,
I think
okay.
they got
So
too much
let's
homework to do.
have an answer so that and I'll
okay,
actually take
so-
a note this time.
So Mike says no to this year, no to next year.
Well, let's just
Yep.
have a year. The answer should be a
So
year.
2020, what do you think? 2027?
For
2028?
delivery. For delivery.
Yeah, and let's broaden delivery to not just to individuals, like to a company or something.
Yeah.
Or
29.
let's even extend it to Tesla putting them in the wild. Let's just put it that way.
No. So I was going to say 29 for delivery to an organization like Uber, for example,
Mm-hmm.
who
Okay.
wants to do a test. But if you want it in
Damn.
the wild, then I'm going to say we're in the 30s at least.
I don't think
Damn.
they can wait that long.
Yeah, I think it's going to be sooner than that.
I don't think
Um,
they got the resources. I really
Okay,
don't.
so Mike, you're
I mean,
saying
they got the money,
2030?
but
got
I don't think
tons
they
of
have the
money.
resources.
Well, isn't money resources?
No, that's just a
Money
piece of
buys other
resource.
resources. Money can be exchanged for goods and
Think
services.
how many problems are going to get uncovered in the wild with this thing.
Well, I think the problems are probably livable. They just
Yeah.
what they do need is a backstop, like pull over or remote control or something.
Right.
I was talking to someone just about this, and I'm thinking, what's Tesla going to do with a robotaxi if someone drops an orange cone in front and back and the side, like happened to Cruise? Cruise had a way to override the computer and basically do remote control.
Yeah, but I mean, Tesla technically does too, right? We've already seen. We have not seen them do that. However, we
In
know
theory, I think
through
they could.
security researchers you can control
I
the
agree.
car.
I agree.
So, in theory,
but I haven't
yes,
seen
they
it.
could have the ability to do that in the next year or two.
I mean, the other thing, there was that Cybertruck that was set on fire in front of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas, and
Oh, with the fireworks
Elon
that
was
blew
able
up?
to just hand over like images from
Yeah. Oh, by the way, here's look at all this cool stuff we saw.
here are pictures of the guy stopping at Superchargers. I'm like,
Yep.
you have all that info?
of course they do.
Apparently they do.
Yeah, of course
Of course they do.
but-
Of course they do.
But you're just gonna give up that info?
Yeah, that was the weird thing, but whatever. We don't need to. That's a whole
Yeah,
other
that's
conversation.
That's a whole other show.
I don't think that I don't think they'll need to do remote driving. I think that they'll, just having basic things that they could do to override or basic things. I mean, Waymo did that for years. They probably still do to some degree. But
think
anyway,
by-
so
I think by 2027 you'll have fleet testing.
Yeah, I think
Limited street
I
testing.
I agree. I don't think this year. Delivery to people, not next year. Maybe, but they'll have their own on the road next year for sure. Like I would be shocked if in 2026 there aren't Tesla controlled ones, even if we can't pay to ride in them. 2026 for sure they'll be on the road. 2027 I expect them to be monetizing it.
Okay, so for the purpose
yeah.
of this question, which we've sort of made it very floppy, I
Yeah.
don't know. You'll just say 2027. I said 2026. I think something.
Yeah.
I think there should be some kind of pilot program by then. So let's just say that.
It's possible.
I'll just say
Okay.
that. And Mike, you're saying 2030 or 2027? What are you saying?
2027 for fleet.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Another question was, will Tesla add the single stock or front camera to the Model S, 3, or X? And this is by next year for 2025.
Yes, correct. 2020.
Yes.
2021.
I would say yes. I don't think they have a choice.
I feel like they are so slow to actually make any changes. Now, this is a kind of a smaller change, but so, we've seen them do on a week by week basis, do things like change the button work on the door or change the gaskets or those kind of things. I'm not sure about something
I say yes because the current Highland Model 3 has got the computer that can handle it. It's all there.
Is it in? But the wiring harness is the other thing. Is it in the
That's
wiring
easy.
harness?
You can slipstream that into production.
I mean, the stock is super easy. People have retroed them in on the My Car already, right? They buy the housing from a Model 3. They buy the stock, you wire it in. So, I mean, like, in theory, it should be doable for them to add the stock in. The camera's harder to do, but I agree with Mike, they do have the computer. So the question is, are they going to do it this year? I'm think yes, we might. If they don't release it, they'll definitely mention that they're doing it, I think.
Yeah,
but I think they'll
it'll be a
release it.
slipstream feature where it just kind of shows up quietly.
I want them to do it, but I don't think they will.
Yeah, maybe it's just copium on my part.
So I'm going to say no. So both of you guys are saying yes.
I'll say yes.
And it could be either of them.
Either of them.
So it could just be one and it would still be yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree that the stock should be pretty easy. It's just make a new part and then just a little change in their manufacturing. But I don't think they'll do it. And that's with the 3. I feel like the S and X are overdue for an overall update. But I feel like their volume is so low that they just don't care.
They don't bother. Yeah, it was 2021 when they last updated them. So
okay. All right. So the next thing, will a competing company beat Optimus to market? Okay, so Optimus is currently planning to sell in 2026. It's a pretty broad question, but there is a lot of competition now. A lot of Chinese companies that are, doing pretty amazing things. I can't remember all the names of them. There's some Nordic company that we showed some images of before, and they had a pretty convincing looking robot, and they had the right ideas. I can't remember the name of the company, but
you're talking the one with the blonde.
Yeah.
So to clarify, like beating Optimus to market for what? So selling. So I feel like they're going to be this year. I would expect you to be able to purchase a somewhat autonomous robot for your house, not humanoid. I should say bipedal humanoid robot. Will not do much useful. It won't be doing your laundry and cooking or doing that kind of stuff. But I have a feeling, I think that this year somebody will sell something. It'll probably be on more of the adult and inappropriate side of this podcast. But yeah, I would expect somebody to be selling that this year based on tech that we have today.
We'll have to have a TMC
It'll be
after
expensive. TMC after dark. I would be shocked if it doesn't come out by the end of this year. Just from what I've seen and companies competing and stuff. But, so do I think somebody's, but I would argue, I think somebody's going to sell something Optimus like, not for that, but just in general to people, probably before Optimus comes out. Now, I think they're going to be too expensive. I don't think people are going to buy them, but
they'll be toys.
Yeah, exactly.
Expensive
Exactly.
toys, but they'll be toys.
Well,
Exactly.
okay, so I needed to remind myself. So the robot that we looked at before is by, I think the name of the company was 1X, and the robot was called the Neo. And and yeah, it looks like it looks like a dude in a suit. It really does.
Yeah.
But the model that they're having with it is to it's basically remotely controlled. So you know, you have to wonder, are you it's kind of a privacy thing. You know, are you willing to you know, have this basically a dude, like a driver, you know, in your house that can like walk around and open doors and stuff, you know? So I mean, it's basically like having a maid or a butler that you know, works remotely.
Telepresence. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the question is if people are okay with that.
I can see that for hazardous environments, but it seems kind of overkill for the house.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we should have these guys on the moon doing stuff, you know. So, all right.
Nuclear physics labs, but whatever.
Well, actually, one of their in an interview, one of their ideas was for like biolabs. So yeah, so like working inside a lab environment, and you know the kind of things you have to do in a lab, like pipetting or whatever.
Sure.
And it's basically you're selling not just the robot but the lab, and like, oh, okay, you know, having lab space to do some experiment can be difficult, but you have some lab space, and then you can
here's the space,
do it remotely.
Rent the hired help and call it good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, neat idea.
Yeah. I mean, I used to work on that in medical, right? Like Da Vinci robots and all that. Like it's been a thing for well over 10 years, closer to 20 years. But yeah, anyway.
So the answer is yes. I think a company will.
You think a company will be to market for 2025?
Yes.
Or I guess
we didn't technically limit it to 2025, just
before 2026.
I think somebody will release something for sale in 2025 that will be
well let's add another question. You know, will Optimus actually, will they actually start delivering Optimus in 2026
to regular consumers? I don't think so.
Yeah, industrial maybe, but not Joe average.
I mean, they're supposed to be pushing to use them in their own factories, right? So like, let's wait to see where that goes. But yeah,
what I've seen of that has been pretty unimpressive to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but they're still using them, unimpressive or not.
Yeah, but
they're
it's
still using,
you know,
them.
Is it saving anybody any time?
No,
Yeah,
no, it's a gimmick.
It's a
but
bitch, yeah.
Okay, we're almost done here. Next question. Wait, so the last one, I'm sorry, that question was no. You all said for 2026, will Tesla actually deliver them in 2026?
Yeah, no.
Okay. All right. So next question is, will Tesla offer an upgrade path for Hardware 3 owners in 2025 for next year?
Chance. I'm a hard no.
Mike says hard no. I'm going to copium and say, yes, please.
Yeah. Lewis is hoping beyond hope.
Yes, please.
So I think they have to do something, right? So I'm not sure what that is.
Oh, I do,
but
it won't be an
bare
upgrade
bones it
path.
is.
They'll give you a killer deal to upgrade your car, but I don't think they'll replace your computer.
You know what? I think they will. You know, during this conversation, I've sort of decided that they can just use the same chip, and then someone just needs to design a board, and there are services you can go out and, you know, get low volume boards, you know,
Agreed.
PCB Way or one of those
AliExpress
people.
will do it.
So if they can do that, if there's no like, I don't know, hard kind of like mismatch on the inputs, like the data, you know, if the data is compatible, or even if they can just add a chip to translate the data for whatever, and they can just use the existing chips, then I think it makes it a lot easier path.
That's still a lot of engineering to do in less than a year.
Oh, I don't think. Okay, so to answer the question, I don't think they'll do it in 2025. They'll do it at the last possible moment, and I don't think it even matters until, like, I haven't tried hardware 13. It seems to me one of the main things it can do
Hardware
is.
4.
I'm sorry.
Software.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. I haven't
You got
tried
this thing
FS,
about.
I haven't tried FSD 13 on any platform, but
You really should.
the one of the
Turo
main
Red.
things it can do is it can go into reverse, so that's a bit of a thing, but I don't know that it's that much better that I would be really upset if
It's
if
slow.
FSD is if FSD gets to 0 interventions, from me driving, from here to, Texas or whatever, then I'll be like, hey, okay, I was promised something. So maybe at that point. So I don't think FSD 13 is that enough better that people are clamoring for it. But like, say they reach autonomy or whatever, I feel like that's where the step is, right?
Right.
Or some other level, and at that point, it may even be a new chip by then.
Or
I mean,
honestly, yeah, if they wait long enough to the point where they have that, they might just replace everybody's cars, right? If you get the number of cars on the road down enough, it might be cheaper for them to just go, we'll give you a huge discount on a trade-in or some other kind of, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Okay, so let's nail down our answers then. I say in 2025, I say no, but yes, eventually.
Yeah.
Uh,
I agree with that. I think eventually they will, but
Yeah.
no, it's unlikely this year.
I'm going to disagree. I don't think there'll ever be an upgrade path for the hardware. I think they'll take an easy route like Lewis just suggested and say, here's a substantial discount on a new car.
well, I would take it if it's great, but I don't see them making it great. Like replace my car, give me a new car.
I'm just saying what my opinion is.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't say they would
They'll
actually do it.
they'll probably offer us Cybertrucks.
I mean, the
They
funny
just have
thing
them
is,
sitting
Well,
on
they seem to
the
have a
lot.
surplus of them.
Yeah, exactly. They have them on the lot.
well, the funny thing is, by the time it mattered, like, what will the actual resale value of my car be? Right?
Very low. Yeah.
It's probably not
what is
much.
it worth now? Right? I don't even know, but
Here's,
there were.
2018.
I have a 2018. There were 2-year-old Model 3s, from Hertz for around 20K or 25K.
Yeah.
I
I just looked recently, and I was going to upgrade my son to a long range because he's got the rear wheel drive plus, and they're going for about 15K right now, or less.
Yeah, I mean, my car is not even worth a third of what I paid for it, and it's less than 3 years old.
That
So
hurts.
just saying, it's maybe a third, but probably not.
So yeah, I think them offering a killer deal on a new or even a used Tesla that's just a couple years old out of inventory might be a great deal.
That's an idea. It's like, we'll give you an older car.
Yeah, I mean they take them back from lease returns. I mean, why not?
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Yeah, I guess we'll see. Okay, and then the last question is kind of a shift. And I should preface this. So a lot of stuff has been going on. Last year we had a question about Twitter, and will Twitter be in the same form, or I don't remember exactly how the question was, but it was essentially, after Elon bought Twitter, will it be the same? And I think the question was actually about the previous year or whatever, and or yeah. Anyway, Twitter is what it is now, or X or whatever. I don't think it needs a whole lot of discussion. But that one of the main things is that, we all thought, wow, Elon lost a ton of money on that thing. He spent over 40 billion for it,
40 billion.
And it lost 70% or more of its value as a company. But for him personally, it seems to put him in a large power position, and certainly in terms of influencing an election and things going his way. So, like shortly after the election, his net worth, went up like $200 billion. So, it certainly made sense in that vein for him. So along with that, Trump has nominated Jared Isaacson to be the new administrator, the NASA administrator.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly Trump, doesn't know Isaacman from Adam, except that Elon must have suggested Jared Isaacman. So probably some changes are coming for NASA administration. Let me just say, Jared is kind of an exciting pick, in terms of pushing forward human exploration in NASA, and that's something that should be part of NASA's mission while still being cognizant of NASA's science mission. And I look at NASA and I see so much wasted money, mainly because SLS is essentially a jobs program, right?
Yep.
It was. And that was, to me, part of the problem with the space shuttle, and that it was designed to spread it out all over the place so that everybody's district could have a piece of it, and have jobs in their little spot. And actually, the last time I went to Texas, I actually came back through Huntsville, Alabama. I wanted to go to Marshall Space Flight Center, since a lot of SLS stuff happens there. And, I want to get a sense, do you guys feel like, are you worried about losing your jobs or whatever? And I think that might have even been before the announcement of Jared, but certainly after the election. But like, there's so many things that don't make sense. Like, we have so many of these cost plus contracts. And I think about something like the James Webb Telescope, which, they said, oh, they will cost, $1 billion or whatever, ends up costing $10 billion. And they spend all this money on technology development, and yet they put all their eggs in one basket. They make one, right? $10 billion for just one James Webb Telescope. I think you could have just a marginal extra cost of, say, another probably only $500 million or something like that, and make another two of them, and you could, why just have one when you spend all this time developing the technology and you're only going to make one? And then, before you shut everything down, make a few, because if you wanted, like right now, if they wanted to make another Webb telescope, it would be
another 10 billion.
Yeah, probably another maybe 5 billion or something, like spooling things up, having to relearn things. So why only make one? So that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
So anyway, with that long preference, the question is, will SLS is the Space Launch System, will that survive past Artemis 2? Artemis 2 is the manned mission that's kind of like Apollo 10, even like Apollo 8 maybe. I guess it's more like Apollo 8, where they just sort of go around the moon and come back. I
think it's a pretty easy answer, and the answer is absolutely not. Like, there's no way. SLS almost shouldn't even last to make it to Artemis 2, let alone. And I think a big part of why I did was, like you said, due to the contracts and the jobs programs and all these legacy companies and lobbyists. But because of the shift of power now, even, if you notice, like, Bezos is now trying to be all buddy with them, and Blue Origin just did their launch. Like, I do think, 5 years from now, space flight in this country is going to be probably SpaceX and Blue Origin, right? Like, and maybe some other smaller companies that are, that are still around that most listeners probably have never heard of. There's a few cool ones though here in Austin. But I don't see, SLS. I don't see the, the Boeing and Lockheed partnership stuff like lasting. It's just, that's just me. It's just it's so expensive, and the ROI on it is just awful.
A funny part of that is that Boeing is trying to sell off their Starliner part and also their commitments on the space station, yet trying to keep the SLS contracts,
right?
Because that's where the money is, right? These cost plus contracts. So I have, as usual, I have a sort of a nuanced answer for this. The thing is, yeah, it should go away. SLS makes
Yep.
no sense. Um, Certainly, in the like 10-year horizon, it should be definitely,
Hmm.
these sort of private companies that can do it you know, at fixed contracts. Um, the only issue I have with it is, this kind of question has bounced around on the forum at TMC. Um, we're kind of racing China a bit to get to the moon, and I've seen some people like let China have the moon. We already went there. We need to go to Mars, right? And Elon is really big on Mars, and he's kind of like moon too. But no, it's really about getting to Mars for Elon, and I kind of have a problem with that.
You're
I
not going to
think
get to Mars if you don't do the moon. You,
that's possible. He could probably go to the moon. I don't know. He could probably go to Mars. But to me, okay, Mars is important in some ways, but for the next 100 years at least, I think the moon is much more important than
yes,
Mars.
yes.
Much more important than Mars.
You need to build a base, build a
The
station.
moon is right there. Okay. The moon has tons of resources. We talk about mining asteroids and getting stuff. But guess what? The moon has been pelted
Really
with
big asteroid.
asteroids for billions of years or whatever, right? Or at least millions.
Yeah.
And so all that stuff should be on the moon. All the like manufacturing
Hmm.
of like and
Low
the thing,
gravity manufacturing.
we're concerned about doing manufacturing on Earth, like pollution. There's nothing to pollute on the moon. Okay, we can just do whatever we need to do there. There's no life there. There's no concern about if you one of the big questions that we need to get an answer for is there any even microbial life
Mm.
or prehistoric or even dead now but used to be life on Mars? uh Once you get people up there, who knows
Change
if you
it.
contaminate it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas the moon, there's no worry about that. All right. And
Yeah.
yes, you can manufacture in a low gravity environment. Also, if you need to go anywhere else, you're in a relatively low gravity well.
Hmm.
So the moon is so important, and I'm more of the mind of, if we want to, back up civilization. I mean, Mars, it's going to be a long time before it's really useful. The only
Viable.
thing it
Yeah.
has going for it is maybe you can make fuel. But the moon, there's water there, so you could have a hydrolox sort of system there,
Right.
and yeah, really we should be making like O'Neill cylinders and
Hmm.
like space stations at
Yes.
L5 or whatever, and all that stuff should just be built on the moon and then launch
We've
from there.
we've not had a human actually outside of the Earth's magnetosphere for more than a few days, right? Like we've never had humans in low gravity for that extended period of time that it takes to go to Mars. Like it'll be 1,000 times easier to go to Mars if we build up on the moon first. Like it absolutely makes a lot more sense there. And everything you said, it's way more valuable in the short term and then in the midterm. Yeah. So I
Yeah,
mean,
and if you go to Mars, you need resources. Okay,
yeah, you got to bring
uh,
everything with you. Yeah.
it it's not vacuum, but it might as well be.
Right.
The soil is poison. You basically
You can
need.
grow potatoes though.
Apparently, again.
I'm just kidding. Just teasing.
So, and the thing is, you need resources. So you'll need regular supply from Earth, and so there's no independent colony on Mars for decades. You could go
Yeah.
visit. You could do what they call footprints and flags. And I feel that's maybe part of Elon's real impetus. He talks about backing up the biome, sure, but that's something that has been done before. And, he already is a historical figure, but he's big on getting credit for big things. And I feel like that's he wants to
Hmm.
be, I'm the one that got us to Mars or whatever.
Right.
But Mars will not be as important as the moon for at least 100 years. So we really should be
Right.
getting to the moon. And then, there was Bill Nelson even said, we need, who was the current NASA administrator, China will be there by
Mhm.
2030. And I think they'll do it. And
Yep.
China is pretty territorial.
Yep.
There are conflicts in the South China Sea. They're basically, usurping islands from the Philippines, and there are spots, particularly on the south pole of the moon, that are resource rich. And if China gets there first, they may stake out a lot of that stuff. The U.S. and NASA goes on about the Artemis Accords, which to me is a little silly because most of the countries that have signed onto the Artemis Accords aren't getting to the moon on their own anyway. Well, guess what? China is not part of those accords, and China's gonna get there and stake out the best resources. So we need to get there too. Okay, so all of that. So maybe I don't know that we can get something together before 2030 without SLS. So that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the one thing about it. So I don't know, but I don't think it will survive. I think there definitely will be a major change. I don't think the Block B will be made of SLS. I think probably a lot of those things will be done better.
I don't even think Boeing should survive as a company by 2030. Like they just shouldn't even be a company anymore at this point. But whatever. But yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. So we'll see. It's a real, you think about all those sort of Southern senators that, and congressmen that, that have those entrenched interests, and a lot of them are Republican. That
right. So what is your actual answer? So do you think it will? Do you think it won't? You think obviously you don't think it should.
I think it won't, but I don't know that we can come up with something else fast enough. So my point is, I don't think it will pass. I think Artemis 2 will happen. They started building it as quickly as they could before the end of the year. At least they got started. So I think that will happen. But and it probably won't survive past Artemis 2, but I don't know, at least in its current form, but I don't know. Gateway is dead. Gateway isn't going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how about you, Mike? Are you also in camp? No.
Won't survive.
Okay. Alrighty.
It's unfortunate, but it won't.
Okay. Well, I guess we're done with our predictions. Real briefly. I don't know if you want to chat about this or not.
Oh, I figure we would do that on the next episode.
Okay.
But...
All right. Well, we can do that. It's been an hour, 45 minutes. So I think we're good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we got to come back more often. And
yes.
2 weeks from now, I guess.
Lots to talk about.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for hanging out with us. And as always, love the comments and the chat. Keep it coming. I would thank our producers, but we didn't really have any producers this week helping us with anything. So thanks, Doug.
I'm the producer.
Thanks, Doug. You did stuff. As always, like and subscribe. Become a supporting member on TeslaMotorsClub.com. That always helps out. And we'll see you next time. This was episode 71. Looks like, yeah. Did we read the comment? You threw up Lunatic Links said, as I understand the thing between Moon and Mars, it's about Mars being really independent from whatever happens on Earth, while Moon in that case is still pretty close. That's true. However, there are many things that would happen on Earth that the Moon would still be fine. And the Moon is more self-sufficient more easily than Mars is. So in the grand scheme, we should be doing both. It's unlikely we would have one without the other. We'd probably have both.
Yeah, that's the main thing is that sure, Mars, but there's no way Mars can be independent for many, many decades because it will need a lot of supplies from Earth.
We don't have total recall technology, so we can't terraform the planet. Not easily. Anyway, but yeah, in someday we'll get there. But yeah. All right. That's a wrap. See you guys next time.
Later.